Welcome everyone to the podcast. Thank you so much for joining me. And today we're going to have a really neat conversation. I have Shannon Takacs here. She is not only an amazing astrologer, and I pepper her with questions all the time, but she's also, I would say, like a grief expert and a death doula. And it's interesting because we've been sort of chronicling her journey through grief since losing her mom. And other losses too, but it's just been neat to get these moments and these captures of the process of grief and how it's not just one conversation, right? It continues and continues. So with that being said, Shannon, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Shanna. It's always fun to be here. And
Yeah,
thanks always for your openness about this topic and your curiosity and your willingness to dedicate time on your podcast for this topic because I just think it's so important.
I think so too. I think, death is the thing that we cannot get away from. We will not get away from death, right? Like it's inevitable, but it's the thing is it's the transition and I find we can focus so much on the spiritual side of death. Like, don't worry, it's okay. You go on, you carry on, and all is well, and you're more alive on the other side. And I mean, I had my NDE. I know this, right? It's all okay. But there's a big but here.
Yeah,
Those that are left on
yeah,
this side after losing the physicality, the connection of somebody in the way that it always was,
yeah,
is hard, regardless.
correct.
Regardless.
Fact.
Fact.
Hashtag fact.
Yes, exactly. So, where would you say you are in your journey now? How long has it been since your mom passed?
She died at the end of October, so I'm about 7 months in, I guess.
Yeah.
Um, and a little caveat, which I don't really haven't mentioned, but I ended up losing my dad about a month before my mom died as well, which is it's not that I don't want to talk about it. It's just I was so engulfed in the caregiving role that I was in with my mom that it's just something like my dad's loss is just something um, that I'm processing alongside. But my mom's loss, of course, is it has really hit me hard because I was so involved with the caregiving aspect for a couple of years.
Mhm.
So I'm sort of like double whammied with like just really a lot of grief and from a lot of different angles. So on any given day, I'm good. And on any given day, I'm having difficult emotions and processing them and moving through them and everything in between.
Mhm.
Coupled with the fact coupled with the fact that I learned in January, my beloved Cashmere King, he's a ragdoll cat in my life, and some people know him that are follow the podcast, but I found out that he was sort of well, not sort of, there's some vague language around dying for a death doula. Um, he's terminal, so he's got renal failure, which I didn't see coming because I was so my focus was so elsewhere. So
Mhm.
that kind of hit me in January. So I'm sort of back in caregiving mode again. Uh, so that's challenging big time.
Mhm.
And I love that you call me a grief expert because every time you do, I just chuckle and I think, oh Lord, oh Lord, no, I'm not. So it's sweet, but it's so and there's nothing expert about grief. It's just such a journey, such a roller coaster, such a journey.
Mhm.
Um, and I guess being a death doula is one thing and not being afraid of the topic and jumping in easily to the topic for others. Um, it's a whole other ride to go through it personally with it being your parents and certainly going through the experience I did with my mom for a couple of years, which is such an intimate, gorgeous experience.
Mhm.
Um, so yeah, I don't know if I answered your question, but
That's okay. We
this is
love
my brain on grief. I'm like, what were we talking about? Where are we?
No, this is great. This is great. I think it's really your willingness to be able to talk
Hmm.
openly and honestly about how you actually are feeling. And I think that's what makes such an impact is because, you're willing to look at it for what it is and be in the moment with it when those moments come up, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So here's a question for you then. With what I was mentioning in the beginning, with what I was mentioning in the beginning, um, knowing everything you know about the afterlife,
Yeah.
having the opportunity to speak with one of your dear soul friends, Dickie Dick, on the other side, as you call him,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Having had these opportunities, you understand there's an afterlife, you're connected to it. How does that play into your grief, right? Because you both honor the process of the human, but also the process of the soul. How do you kind of like move between those two frames of thought?
Yeah, I think that's a really great question. I think um, on hard days, like when you're really rattled by grief and nothing makes sense and everything feels hard and you're just getting through the day, I don't have a very good connection with the other side. I find it very hard to be okay with it. Um, I, yeah, it's just a really intangible thing, right?
Mhm.
And then on okay days or when I get curious about my grief, then the magic falls into place a little bit and I see things like I just had a really cool experience on leading up to my dad's birthday. It was just my dad's birthday on Friday. And I had a really cool experience coming into that I won't get into the details because it's not significant except to me. But it was
Mhm.
just like that little, I call them love bombs, but I've always called them love bombs. But I think with all this narcissism information, that's getting a bad rap. But I call them love bombs, these little nuggets that fall from the sky. And you'd just be hard pressed to not believe. Like it's just
Mhm.
so synchronistic, you'd be hard pressed to not believe. Now, I am a believer. So maybe for other people listening today, this might sound super far-fetched. I don't know. I've had a lot of years flexing the muscle of belief and trust and patience. Uh, so, but in these moments where things just fall into place, or fall down on you and you just be hard pressed to not notice them, you know?
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
in those moments, I feel very, it just makes me giggle. It has to. I don't know what else to do with it. But those are on my good days where I can
Mhm.
just look at the little wink from the universe and appreciate it and put my hand on my heart and like move on with my day, you know?
Yeah.
But on the hard days, nothing even close to that, you know? Really,
Interesting.
really nothing even close to that. Just yeah, it's just difficult.
Yeah, and I think that really is a beautiful example of just our outlook on life anyways, right? Like when we're in the lighter energy in a day, we can receive signs from our spirit guides, from our loved ones with just more
Yeah.
ease and grace. We're more receptive. And on
Yeah.
those hard days, whatever we are grieving, right? Loss of whatever in our life, independence, job, identity, whatever,
Yeah.
it's harder to receive those messages. And it
Uh-huh.
doesn't mean they're not there, but oftentimes we just can't see them.
Yeah. I try to, yes, I wholeheartedly agree. And I try to start my day with curiosity. Like I have a gratitude practice that I do in the mornings and it lends itself to like surprise me. I'm open. Like show yourself.
Mhm.
Show yourselves. I have a lot of dead people on my team. But um and so like here's a really great example. So these like beautiful little ranunculus that are behind me, they're really something that I shared with Gertie in the last year or two springs. I just got onto them and they're just utterly stunning.
Yeah.
And they last a long time and there's layers and layers and layers. So for any peony lovers out there, these trump peonies, trust me. Um, so it's something that I shared with Gertie, and I get them at my local market. And there's just a short season, right? It's a spring flower.
Mhm.
Um, and the ones at my local market are just stunning. And I have a really good friend who walked the storyline with Gertie and myself, and she's just a dear soul. And for instance, leaning towards curiosity on a not great start to a day or a day that like feels a bit shaky. Poof, I just get a text from her. She's at the front of the lineup. It's a big lineup for this one particular vendor because they also do like greenhouse stuff.
Mhm.
Um, so this was a couple Saturdays ago. Oftentimes I don't even know what day of the week it is. Like, so I didn't even remember to go to the market. And I get a text from her and she's like, "Hey, I'm at the front of the line. I want to get you a bouquet and they'll hold them for you. You can just come up whenever. They'll keep them in water. I just want to buy them."
Amazing.
Just things like that. And
Yeah. Yeah.
that's just like to me, that's just a little Gertie love bomb for sure. Like
Totally. Totally.
I've
Yeah, okay, so I have to share this with you too. So this
Yeah.
is so neat. And this is how like the spirit world, whether it's our loved ones, our spirit guides can love bomb us too, because I just had a very similar experience and
Okay.
kind of a different way to do with flowers. And I want to share it because I want to double down on how real this can be. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
So just yesterday I had to go help set up this float for a parade that my daughter was in.
Yeah.
And so I leave, it's pouring rain. I'm like, this is going to be a totally rainy day parade, whatever. And my husband's like, take my heated vest, right? And I have this thing where I'm like, I'll be fine, even though I'm like miss cold over here. I'm always cold, right? I'm like, I'll be fine. So I leave, I'm starting to drive away. And my spirit guides, they're like, in this case, I can hear them. They're like, just turn around and get the vest. Like, what are you doing? So I was like,
Yeah.
fine. I was going to be late. So I turn around and a couple days prior, I was questioning like my healing process and stuff, right? And the symbol for my healing has always been a sunflower since Spirit showed it to me back in the
Okay.
fall.
Nice.
So I was pondering this as I was driving, and then Spirit was like, just turn around. So I did. I turned around. I was going to come get this vest. But I
Yeah.
turned around and I turned this other corner and I happened to follow this car that on the antenna, they have this sunflower. And I see that and I'm like, I see what you guys are doing. Okay, thank you for that sign.
So
So
funny.
then I go to help set up this float and we're decorating it with flowers. And this one lady comes to me, she's like, can you decorate the back of the float and take these flowers? And she hands me two massive bouquets of fake sunflowers.
Nice.
That's the only sunflowers there are. And she picks me that I have to set up these sunflowers. And I was like, I started laughing. I was like,
Yeah.
I see you guys. Thank you so
Yeah.
much. I see you.
Yeah.
Right.
Isn't
And
that incredible?
that's how they can work through us. Like spirit worked through your friend, right? Spirit worked through that car and that other lady for me. And for those that are, the reason why I bring this up is because if you're really stuck in grief, sometimes to just hear of these possibilities and the ways it can happen can sometimes open our heart a little bit to the idea of it, the what if, the like, okay, I'm a
Yeah.
little bit open to that. And sometimes all it needs is just a crack in the door for
Yeah.
spirit to come in with these metaphorical flowers,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and the week before the market, I ended up going to the market, but I was late, or then I wanted to be because of there's always a lineup at this one vendor. And I saw my friend at the front of the lineup, the same friend that just bought me these ones last
Yeah.
week. And I said, I didn't get here in time, but hopefully there'll be someone I get to the front of the line because there was quite a line.
Yeah.
I said to Gertie driving down there, I'm like, Gertie, come on, like if we get there, like make sure there's a bouquet for us and or for me, and if there's choice, make sure I know which one to grab, you know?
Yeah.
So there, my friend was at the front of the lineup, and she came back after purchasing her goodies, and just to say hi. And I put my little face in the ranunculus, and I was like, "Oh my God, they're so beautiful!" And she's like, "I bought one for you. Like, take it." And I'm like, "So that was like 2 weeks ago." And then she reminded me this Saturday of them again, but
Yeah.
even like 2 weeks in a row. So I was like, "Gertie, make sure we get one." And there's my
There it
friend
is.
running the lineup
Yes.
thing with my dad that happened that came into his birthday. I had a reading with a medium. No, it wasn't you, but no pressure. We've already talked about this.
Yeah.
Um, and she said, "Oh yeah, your dad will show himself with dimes and loonies," which is kind of funny because that tracks for my dad, whose love language was definitely money.
Okay. Yeah.
Um, and I laughed because I thought, oh, I don't have any dead people that show up as dimes. I hear about it, dimes and feathers, but it doesn't resonate with me. So I thought, oh, cool. Stevie's going to show up as, dimes and loonies. And the thing that happened leading into his birthday was a deposit of money. So I just like you can't deny it. Like there's
Yeah.
no reason why that should have happened. And it was
Yeah.
it was like not a huge lump sum, but it was a significant little sum of money that I didn't
Yeah.
expect coming into his birthday. So I mean,
Yeah.
can it get more clear? Like, I don't know. Seems
Right?
pretty clear, and I'm not clairvoyant like you. Like, I don't have spirit guides guiding my days, but I am paying attention all of the time because that's what we're left with. That's all we got.
Yeah.
Like, enjoy the ride or don't enjoy the ride, but there's little nuggets happening all around you.
Yeah.
And just being curious again, if that's all you can do is just be curious,
Yeah.
great. That's a great place to start. I mean, I've been flexing this muscle for years and years and years, but
Mhm. I like your statement about being curious because I think that's that doorway. I think that's that crack in the door. And I think if like that's sometimes I think the hardest part though when in grief is to have that curiosity because I think sometimes you would probably want to just sit in a hole, right? No doorway, just a hole. And the
Yes.
willingness to have that curiosity in a day of maybe doing something different, going somewhere different, to even a different morning routine, like something that you can be curious about can
Yeah.
open that doorway for those messages to come in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is another really great example. I think it's a great example anyway. I had to go down to my mom's apartment last Thursday. I was going down for a celebration of life for a neighbor of mine who passed away, but I had to go into my mom's apartment to pick up a couple things that were left. But I knew it was going to be empty because it's getting ready to be listed on the market.
Hmm.
So I was prepared for the emptiness, but you can never really prepare yourself for the emptiness. And other grief came in when I walked in there, and it had to do with my brother who had died and the grief that my mom carried for my brother. It was altogether really just not a very fun half an hour.
Hmm.
So, um, and at that time, the strata manager of that apartment, who's been a bit prickly, he's just a challenging guy. He's got like some control issues, let's just say. And he was pounding on the door because where I parked my car, which was a place I could park my car, he just forgot to put a sign out to say, hey, we have mover vans coming in,
Right.
don't park here. But he was banging on the door, and I thought, no, not today. Not today. You're not getting access to me and upsetting my day more than I am already upset being in this very empty apartment.
Hmm.
And I couldn't believe, like, my initial reaction was like, how is this guy making this day even harder? He was such a challenge in the last year of mom living in her apartment and just not very easy and thoughtful and kind, right?
Hmm.
And so initially my reaction was just like, "Ugh," but I drove away and I was heading towards this celebration of life and just preparing myself for that. And I thought, okay, what's the gift here? Because like this guy's not taking my day down, and that is awful to see my mom's apartment empty, a space that we shared so intimately for a couple years, and was really like my home away from home. And I thought, oh, I know what this is. This is another example of because it happened a few times during the very end of my mom's death, and then quickly after my mom's death, there was a couple things he did that were like wildly, outrageously inconsiderate. And I thought, oh, this is just another example of me detaching from this apartment and
Hmm.
and making me realize like, ooh, I don't like the vibes in this apartment building anymore. This is not a fun place to hang out because I had to detach from it.
Hmm.
I had to, I had no choice. She died, and of course we're going to sell it. Um, so I laughed, I giggled, and I'm like, thanks, Gertie. Yep, I don't want to deal with this guy anymore. I don't want to be around this building anymore because something always shakes down where he's upset and comes in hot, right?
Hmm.
And I just giggled and I'm like, thank you, because that was awful and I don't want to come back, and I'll just deal with the grief of your sweet little apartment that we had so much fun in. Um, on my own in the safe space of my own home in my own environment at my home. But you could be taken down by that experience. He was really banging on the door. I could hear everything he was saying to the neighbor because my mom's apartment was empty. I could hear everything.
Yeah.
Everything was so echoey. And so you could take that experience and have it really upset you, and it would and could and should, or you can just take it as the gift that it was, which was just an exercise in detaching even more.
Hmm.
And that's just, am I like just a raging optimist? Maybe Dickie would say the rose-colored glasses,
Yeah.
but I'm not in those moments. I'm just a human getting through the day, just like everybody else in their grief. But I tend to go towards curiosity. I always go towards curiosity. And that's where it took me. And that felt true for me. It wasn't even like I'm trying to tweak positivity and, all this like toxic positivity culture. No, that's where it took me when I got curious with why did this actually happen? In the few moments that I had in this apartment, I wasn't staying long. I was gathering up a few things, bang, bang, bang.
Yeah.
So
Interesting.
that might be a long-winded example, but I think it's a really good representation of like, I was in the ship at that moment and there's a way out, and it's through curiosity, if you ask
Yeah.
me.
Yeah. So here's a question for you. So being that it's 7 months since your mom passed, 8 months since your dad passed, right?
Yeah.
Because he was a month before.
Yeah.
Did you, even though I know you're a death doula, so your perspective is a little bit different, right?
Yeah.
But did you ever have, or have you had any expectations of like, well, I should be here by now?
Uh,
Have
all
you?
the time.
Yeah.
Yes. Because we've talked about this all the time. Our society is built on get over it, get up, get back to work, cha cha cha, right?
Hmm.
It's good for you to stay busy. It's good for you to get busy. People have, our society has expectations. So, yes, those expectations follow me all of the time. And certainly coming into spring, right? Because spring is like, newness. And like, even I was saying, hopefully I'll come back to life and pop up like a little tulip, um, pop up to my old self like a tulip. So, yes. But I then quickly remind myself, whoa, whoa, whoa. Like, so for me, and this is just my story, so not everybody listening will have caregiven for 2 years and been completely, utterly caregiver burnout by the end of it. So I would say my journey with grief is coupled also with a complete and utter burnout. Like my brain is still not firing online. I worry about it sometimes, but I also know it's just a process
Yeah.
of healing and getting it back, much like your body, right?
Hmm.
But I mean, I'm a fire child. I want to go, I want to cha cha cha, and it's just not possible. And it's very frustrating. I forget appointments. I can't read for fun, not very well, anyways. I canceled a European holiday that I thought, oh, that's a great idea. And mom and I talked about it. And she's like, you be sure to go. And I'm like, okay, Gertie, I'm going. And then, I'm sitting here, I'm like, I can't even do one bullet point on that list of like things to get me ready to show up at an airport. Forget about this whole other thing I had planned. So yeah, yeah. I have
Yeah.
great expectations and I have a Capricorn moon. Always have to slide astrology into it.
Yeah.
I have a Capricorn moon, which means I am designed to do things or want to do things in an excellent fashion, and and I'm very judgy when those things don't happen well. So I'm
Yeah.
hard on myself. I'm probably hard on loved ones because my high expectations of how things should roll. So does that fall on me? Uh-huh.
Yeah. I see. Yes. So what do you, how do you kind of de-escalate that narrative in your mind when you start noticing it winding up? Like, what are
I
your
usually
some things?
Yeah, I mean, I'm a big fan of reaching out to friends who have witnessed my journey and understand what I went through. And I have one of my best friends going through it right now with her parents elsewhere. So almost not always daily do I touch in with her. Does she reach out to me because she's in the thick of it right now?
Hmm.
But I am mirrored often by her experience of like, oh yeah, that was really hard
Yeah.
and that was really exhausting. Another friend of mine down in Seattle is preparing a stepmother's estate uh, because she's found out she's terminal. So she left me a voice memo on the weekend saying, "Oh my God," because I checked in with her, like, "How are you doing and how's it going?" And she said, "Yeah, well, you were on my mind because I'm completely burnt out and I've been only doing this for a month. I like, how did you do that for two
Mhm.
years? And how did you do it for the last 6 months and the last 2 months, like you talked about, were the hardest when you were already so burnt out?" So I usually reach out to people who know what I went through and can mirror back to me like it's okay that your brain's still not working. Like be gentle, you know,
Mhm.
go easy on yourself, which is very hard for me. I tend to have high expectations.
Yeah.
But I try to funnel them now into places of healing like my physical body. So working out and uh, having someone guide me in my workouts because for the first time in my life, I'm not self-motivated to be there or be
Hmm.
anywhere remotely close to working out. So that's been really helpful. I've had amazing support through hospice. So my mom was uh, not delusional about her trajectory. So we got linked into hospice and palliative care early on into her journey, which meant I benefited from hospice resources, which has been a godsend. So
Okay.
talk therapy, art therapy, body like Reiki
Yeah.
therapy, and that's all free. That's all been a free resource to me,
Really?
hospice. Yeah. So I take my high expectations, and I tried to put them towards like healing things like journaling, like writing, like,
Hmm.
you know, the art therapy was super beautiful, being in a room with people where you felt safe with your grief and you felt like you didn't have to contain it to be okay for others, you could just show up and be a bawling mess, which is usually how I turned up in those safe spaces. And it opened up my creativity, which is really fun. It opened up new mediums that I've never tried before in art. And so yeah, I don't know if I'm answering that
Yeah.
question, but yeah, focusing it on things that should bring me health and wellness is kind of my 2025 tour to
Yeah.
Shannon.
Right. Tour to Shannon.
Yeah.
Okay, here's a question for you. Do you have an expectation of, it's a long question. So do you have an expectation of a moment in which it will be okay, right? Like the grief will suddenly become okay. And did you reach that with the passing of your brother because that was so long ago? Did it come to a point where it was okay? Like, because you hear some people talk about, losing a loved one. I know somebody who lost her partner. They were so close, but she's so peaceful with it that she's just carrying on. And I know everyone's journey is totally individual.
Yeah.
Did you like, is there an expectation of this moment where it's finally okay? Did you ever have that? Is my
Wow,
question.
that's a really interesting question. And can I get your friend's phone number? Because my intuitive answer to that question of, well, and these are close people in my life I've lost, much like her and her partner, but like to lose a brother at a young age before grief and loss was even a talking point in society was one whole. That's why I'm here. That's why I became a death doula. I mean, like I'm still healing that wound. You teach the thing you need to learn. So which is why I giggle when you call me what do you call me, a grief expert or something? I'm like,
Yeah.
am I? Oh my gosh. That's so ridiculous. And then to lose your parents, well, hey, I'm 7 months into the journey. It's a bit wobbly.
Yeah.
It's a bit orphany. It's a bit like, ooh, where do I belong? There's a whole lot of things going on there. So I guess my short and intuitive answer is I don't think we're ever okay losing our people.
Hmm.
I just don't think it is a thing that, do we find acceptance? Yeah, we have to, because eventually the shock wears off. And that's one thing I really wanted to mention today. Um, the high expectation thing. So I think it takes a long time for the shock to wear off. I would dare say I'm not even out of it with my own mom, and I was there witnessing it happening. So 7 months in, I can say I was still boohooing just last week in my counseling session with the fact that I still can't believe that apartment's empty, that her chair is no longer there, that she doesn't come out of that bedroom, walking down that hall, greeting me every morning with a little Gertie quip?
Yeah.
So I don't think we're ever okay. I think we just find acceptance once we come out of the grief, or out of the shock, I should say. And once we start accepting, okay, this really did happen. This really did happen. Okay. And I think that is a slow process. And I think that is a process that society doesn't allow us to get to naturally, right? Get back to work, our bereavement leaves
Hmm.
a joke. Um, the fact that we have no emotional support and we're just expected to go back to work and be in an office space with bright lights and chatty people. I mean, it's just insanity. It hurts my soul that we have these expectations of people.
Hmm.
So if we're able to let it happen naturally, which is always my go-to for me, I'm in a very privileged position, admittedly. I have enough resources. I'm not wealthy by any stretch, but I have enough resources and I live very, very small to allow myself the time, to gift myself the time if you can. And I'm also in a very unique position because I don't have children by choice. I don't have a husband, also kind of by choice. So like I don't have others bumping up against me. And that's a
Yeah.
totally different experience than most people have. Most people are married or have partnerships. Most people have little ones that they're corralling and stewarding through life. And so my experience, I mean, is very different than a lot of people's, but I just think acceptance is a big thing. And I think allowing ourselves to naturally come out of the shock is paramount. And I just don't think
Hmm.
we do it.
Yeah.
And if I can say as a death doula, so someone is pretty well equipped with this topic, and someone who sat and watched my mother literally die, let's just call it the last 6 months of my journey with my mom, where we really knew like, okay, this trajectory is going downhill fast.
Hmm.
If I can still be in shock at 7 months and still be crying about like she really did leave to my counselor,
Yeah.
like I just feel so sad for people that don't have people supporting them on a path of saying it's okay to be in shock still. It's okay. It's bananas they left the planet. It's impossible to believe, you know?
Yeah.
And so just yeah, I don't know, it's a bit of a rambling message, but my intuitive answer was I don't think we ever accept. I think we just carry on and we carry it the best we can and we find the gifts like we've talked about a lot
Hmm.
and carry those really with us on the hard days, you know?
Hmm.
And enjoy them when they land on us and stay in dialogue with your people because they die, but your relationship with them does not.
Yeah.
That might be a head trip for some people to understand, but that's what we were talking about earlier.
Yeah.
You know?
So maybe that idea of like being okay, like this person I was talking about
Mhm.
being okay, is coming to terms with the new reality,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
Rather than just all is well as it was before. It's more like adapting to the new reality.
That's a better way to ask that question, actually, because
Yeah,
what's okay mean? Okay is such a
exactly.
subjective term, but how and like that's a way better way of framing it for sure.
Hmm.
Yeah. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. Good one. Yeah.
So, what else would you say is important for people to know at like this phase now of grief, where the initial standard idea of shock time is over, right? Like to everyone, they all know it's happened, right? Let's say your people, they know it's happened. They know you've been grieving. They know you've been moving through it. They've been checking in on you.
Yeah.
What's important for people to know in your position at this point? 7 months out, a year out?
Okay, well, there's two things with that question, if I might break it down.
Yeah.
Um, well, yeah, how shall I say this? Some people will show up for you and some people will not in your tight crew. And that's disappointing and hurtful and all kinds of other emotions that have to get like stored aside because I'm just grieving too much big things to worry about that.
Mhm.
And then surprisingly, amazingly, other people show up that you just didn't even expect. In
Mhm.
my case, I didn't even know this one person. And she'll know who she is when she listens to this podcast. It fell onto my lap. Didn't witness 1 minute of my journey with Gertie and is like such a solid in my life. So there are people that will show up and there are people that will not. That's to start. And then one of my like PSA announcements for like being on here today would it would be to not put the onus of how you want to support your grieving person onto the grieving person. And what I mean by that is don't expect me to tell you how to show up for me. Trust I am not doing well on most days, or like,
Mhm.
trust this is a slow moving journey I'm on. Trust that any emotional support you can offer me will be well received, and trust that I have no initiation outward to 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 make you see me. So don't put that on me.
Yeah.
And I don't mean this as like a scolding thing. It really is just like think about that.
Mhm.
So I have two really good experiences to share about this. One that happened to me and one that I did with my neighbor who passed away. So the one thing that happened to me in December, I was pretty much like, I don't know, I don't even remember November and December, but December was not a good month. And I had a friend reach out to me. She lives in Vancouver, and she just reached out to me and said, I want to come and see you. Can I come tomorrow? And this was like Boxing Day, right? So I'm just like, I want to come and see you. Can I come tomorrow? And I thought, hell yeah, you can, because I need to get out of this energy that I cannot get out of on my own. And people are busy with Christmas, and most of my friends have kids, and blah, 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 blah. Life goes on, right? So she just inserted herself into my life on my text And I was like wildly grateful because I had no idea that's what I even needed. She showed up at the ferry. I went to get her. All we did was laugh for like a day and a half. She just came quickly. She's like, I don't want to stay. I just want to come and see you. I was so grateful. And it got me thinking, I bet this is a really good idea for me. Like, this is how broken
Yep.
your brain is in the grief phase. So I reached out to another girlfriend of mine who lives an hour north. And I'm like, I think this is a good idea. Could you come down and stay with me for a day and a night and like insert your energy into my life and like do something with me that you think I might need? And in this case, she's a foodie and she brings food and she brings amazing food. So I learned in that moment, insert yourself into your people's lives that are deep in the grief. And like we're all swimming in grief right now, right? So like everybody's dabbling in grief, but I mean for the people that are in it, like with parents, with like not just parents, but animals, like just in it, in the grief pit, right?
Yeah.
And then I can just hear people saying, but I don't know how to do that. You're a death dealer. You're way more comfortable with that topic. Maybe, probably. And here's what it can look like. So, for instance, me, I'm in my shit pit of grief. Like, I've got nothing to offer anybody at this point. I have no initiation energy outward to others, but I received this email from my neighbor to let us know, a group of us on our street let us know about her husband who passed away. It wasn't that surprising, but it was still surprising, you know? He was a senior and he was struggling. But as soon as I read the email, I inserted myself into her life because I'm like, I am not responding to this via email. This is like big stuff. And he's kind of iconic on our street. He was a beautiful, amazing, hospitable, generous spirit soul. Anyway, so I reached for my phone immediately. So this is what it can look like. Hi, um, I just received your email. I am so devastated by this news. If you would like to talk, I would love to listen and I would love to like have a visit on the phone if you're up for that. And it doesn't have to be right now. I'm just saying I just received your news. I just wanted to let you know personally, not through the email, how devastated I am to receive this news. And she responded immediately and she said, "No, this is actually a really good time." She phoned me and we had a beautiful conversation for like a half an hour. I got to hear her stories. She got to talk about her person. I went in with listening ears. I just wanted her to be able to make sense of it and try to get herself out of her shock body. Obviously not in that moment, but for that moment.
Mm-hmm.
All the things. Tell me what happened. Shake it off like a dog shakes, you know?
Yeah.
So that's how you can show up. Insert yourself. Don't wait for the grieving person to say, "Help, I need you."
Yeah.
Trust. Trust. We need help every day. Like
Yeah.
trust the SOS is up every day. And that's just a small example of what it can look like to be on the receiving end of like, yes, please come over and shake up my energy and
Mm-hmm.
to be there for another. And all it requires is, again, curiosity and listening ears, right?
Yeah. I love that.
Yeah, so that's what I would want people to know at the 7 months in, I guess. And then there was this beautiful sentence that a friend offered me a bunch of weeks ago when I was complaining about my brain feeling concussed, because that's what it feels like with caregiver burnout slash grief brain fog, whatever you want to call it. Um, and he offered me the sentence, which I think about every day, and it is, "What are you proud of being capable of?" And I always put down today.
Mm-hmm.
So my immediate answer to that question when he offered it to me was like, "Oh, I am proud I get up out of bed every day. I'm proud I make my bed every day. I'm proud I exercise or try to every day, or at least some kind of body love, move my body basically.
Mm-hmm.
I I'm proud I'm not a great cook. I don't love spending time in the kitchen. I'm proud I'm eating healthy. I'm proud I'm like doing these really basic things, you know?"
Mm-hmm.
But I think that question is something that everybody listening can take away. It doesn't matter if you're grieving or not grieving. It's just such an interesting sentence to offer compassion and ease versus like my Capricorn moon, which is like for focusing on excellence at all
Yeah.
times, you know? It's just a really gentle way of saying, and also not just offering yourself compassion, but for the griever to witness your progress, you know, because what I can write down 4 weeks ago might be different than next May. Should be,
Yeah.
hopefully.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, now I can read books, full books for fun, and I can absorb the information and my brain, you know.
Hmm.
So that is definitely been a really, really beautiful feature of my everyday is asking myself that sort of like during the day, at the end of the day, looking back on a day, looking forward to a day. It's like, well, what do I want to be proud about? What am I capable of being proud about? And sometimes like it's just the little things which are actually the big things, you know?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's beautiful. I love that. And I think, like, you're right. It's those little steps that help you see your progress. And sometimes just seeing a little bit of progress gives you that encouragement and that like ease, takes the burden off of like the shit pit, like you say, right? When you
Yeah.
see some progress, you're like, okay, wait a minute. Look at that.
Yeah.
That hope factor that things are getting a little better.
Yeah.
And I think grief is so much like healing too. Um, it's never linear. It's never a straight line. It's always the up and down and around.
Yeah. It's a
Yeah.
ride. Holy moly.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a big ride. And the other thing that I think we've talked about in the past, but it's all the secondary losses that bleed into the main loss. So when you say, yeah, it's a ride and it's not linear, sure isn't, because not only, let's just say you lost a person, let's just say we're talking about people. Um, there's so many losses that are the trickle down effect of a big loss, right? Like hopes and dreams and aspirations, and if it's a partner like your person, missing highlights of children's lives in the future, like all kinds of secondary losses just swoop in. Like it's just what happens. So it's not just, oh, are you over your mom's death yet or your dad's death yet? It's like, uh, no. You know, so just reminding ourselves that when you're supporting someone who's grieving, there's so much more to it. It's not just, it could be, I have to leave the place I'm living. I have to move from the city I was staying in or living in. Some big changes might come down the pipe, and these are all secondary losses, so small and large, and also affecting us deeply on top of what's already happening to us with the big deaths or the big losses, the big griefs, you know?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And
Hmm.
I
Well,
just
oh,
I can't emphasize enough, Jeanette. I think for this podcast, I can't emphasize enough how long the shock takes to wear off. Like
mhm,
it's kind of boggling my brain a lot because I was with my mom. I'm a death doula. I know what was happening. I knew where we were going. And I was there right to the end, except like the last few minutes. But um, it surprises me. It really, really surprises me that at the 7 month mark, I can still be crying about like, she did, she did, she
mhm,
did. This apartment's empty. This is crazy to my brain, you know?
yeah,
And I, it, the shock just requires so much compassion and gentleness and kindness to yourself that it's not, you're not crazy to be thinking these thoughts. This is really just a natural progression of healing.
mhm,
And it looks like, I didn't know this either until Gertie died, but it looks like it doesn't just have to be sudden death where the shock takes a long time. It looks like maybe any death, the shock takes a long time, and to be gentle with ourselves while we get there,
yeah,
being the acceptance of like the new reality, just like you said earlier with your friend.
yeah. That's
Thank you.
beautiful.
Really rambly, but
No, it's so good. There's so much depth in what you're sharing, and I just love hearing your perspective and the honesty in it and the vulnerability in it. I think is just so helpful for lots of people and whatever kind of grief they're going through, right?
yeah,
Like
yeah, whatever
whatever kind
kind
of
of
grief.
grief. Yeah.
I mean, I remember grieving the loss of no longer being in the music industry. I've talked about this before, but
Yes.
that grief lasted probably 2 years. And I was stunned because I chose to leave.
Yeah.
I chose to move on, but I also did not utter a sound in terms of singing for 2 years. I would not. It was just this grief inside me that I couldn't. And it didn't make sense to me. And so hearing you even speak about the grief of losing your mom, how applicable that process is to
Yeah.
any kind of grief, like you've talked about when we've talked death doula stuff, right? Grief and loss in life of things. And for me, that was losing the identity of being a singer,
Yeah.
right? So like I'm just saying it's so applicable what you're talking about to anybody listening,
It's
moving through a transition of some sort. It's huge. It's huge.
Yeah, and I can say too, when I moved back to the island from the Kootenays, I chose it. I wanted it. And there's lots of grief.
Yeah.
Dicky Dick was just one of them, right?
Mm.
And so, yeah, I think that's actually very confusing for a lot of people as you're unraveling about yourself. It's like, well, I chose it.
Mhm.
Why am I busy being sad about it?
Yeah.
Well, it's called grief. It's called loss, and it lives in transitions of all
Mhm.
kinds.
Yeah.
Children leaving kindergarten, children starting kindergarten, children leaving middle school, children graduating,
Yeah.
children going to university. I mean, it goes on and on and on and on and on.
Mhm.
And that's one of the reasons why I'm so passionate about this topic is it literally lives in the air that we breathe and the water that we drink, and we don't even recognize it, let alone talk about it, because we're barely allowed to talk about it with big griefs, big losses, people
Mhm.
dying. We still want to usher you back to work. We still want you to quit talking about it.
Mhm.
What? This is this
Yeah.
is this is insane and so damaging and unnecessary. This is the thing. It's such unnecessary suffering because we don't allow our people to do this thing naturally. And so that's, I think, my big passion behind it is it's such unnecessary suffering if we just allowed people to be
Yeah.
and accept them where they're at and allow them to get out of it naturally, we would all be healthier for it as a
Yeah.
society, in our culture, personally, within our family units, our colleagues, the communities that we belong to.
Yeah.
I can't even imagine the beauty that could live in a culture that allowed us to go through this naturally. It's my dream,
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah. Amazing.
Yeah, thanks, Jeanette, for always like having me on here to
I love it. I'm so
talk about
glad.
all the hard,
It's
dark things.
good. Yeah, it needs to be talked about, and I'm so glad you're willing and able to do it. I think it's beautiful. So
Yeah,
thank you
thanks.
so much for sharing your story
Yeah,
and your
yeah.
insights.
It's my pleasure. And Gertie's, I'm
And
sure.
Gertie's.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's so beautiful.
And Dickie Dicks.
And right, all of them there.
Yeah.
Um, all right. Well, thank you everyone for watching and checking it out and listening. If you want to connect with Shannon, you can at shannontakis.com. Correct? Did I get that
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
shannontakis.com.
hmm
And as well at Avalon Spirit for any birth chart readings too. And I look forward to seeing you all next time. So thanks again, everyone.
Thanks, Jeanette.
Bye.